I never thought the most popular guy on campus would stop his car in the middle of a storm and change my life forever. The rain had been falling for almost an hour when I finally gave up trying to stay dry. My hoodie was soaked, my sneakers splashed through puddles, and the cold Oregon wind felt like tiny needles against my skin. I was making my way across the college parking lot after a late study session when a black Mustang slowly pulled up beside me. First, I ignored it. Cars didn't stop for people like me. Then the passenger window rolled down. "Michael!" I froze. Behind the wheel sat Weston Hayes. The Weston Hayes, the golden boy of Riverside College. Star soccer player. Dean's List student. The guy everyone seemed to know and admire. And somehow he knew my name. "What are you doing out here?" he asked with a grin. "Trying to swim home?" I laughed despite myself. "I think I've already failed that mission." Weston chuckled. "Get in. I'll give you a ride." My heart skipped a beat. For a second, I wondered if he was joking. But he looked completely serious. "You don't have to." "Michael," he interrupted. "You're standing in a storm. Get in the car." I couldn't argue with that. A few seconds later, I was sitting in the passenger seat while the rain hammered against the windshield. The inside of the car was warm, comfortable, safe. Soft music played through the speakers. The smell of coffee and cedar filled the air. Weston glanced over. "Better. A lot better. Good." For a moment, neither of us spoke. I kept staring out the window, trying to convince myself that this wasn't weird. Why would Weston Hayes be giving me a ride? We barely knew each other. Sure, we'd had a few classes together. Sometimes we exchanged greetings. But that was it. At least that's what I thought. Weston turned onto the main road. "So," he said casually, "how's your semester going?" I shrugged. "Busy." "Same. You seem to handle busy pretty well." He laughed. "Trust me, nobody handles it well." That surprised me. Most people thought Weston had the perfect life, the perfect grades, the perfect friends, the perfect future. But something in his voice suggested otherwise. For the next 20 minutes, we talked about everything. Classes, movies, music, terrible cafeteria food. To my surprise, we liked many of the same things. Every time I made a joke, Weston laughed. Not the polite kind of laugh. A real one. The kind that made his eyes crinkle. The more we talked, the more relaxed I became. Outside, the storm grew stronger. Inside the car, it felt like the rest of the world had disappeared. At one point, a song I loved started playing. I immediately recognized it. Weston noticed. "No way," he said. "You know this song? It's one of my favorites." He stared at me. Then he started laughing. "What?" "Nothing. Tell me." He shook his head. "I just realized we have way more in common than I expected." Something about the way he said it made my stomach flutter. I quickly looked out the window. Weston smiled to himself but didn't say anything. A few minutes later, instead of heading toward campus, he took a different road. I frowned. Where are we going?" "Relax." That grin returned. "I want to show you something." Normally I would have said no. Normally I would have been cautious. But for some reason I trusted him. 10 minutes later we arrived at a scenic overlook above the city. The view was incredible. Rain rolled across distant hills while thousands of lights sparkled below. Weston parked the car. For a while we simply sat there watching the storm. The music played quietly in the background. Neither of us seemed in a hurry to leave. "This place is amazing," I said. "It is." I turned toward him. He wasn't looking at the view anymore. He was looking at me. Something shifted inside my chest. The playful atmosphere suddenly felt different. More personal. More serious. Weston's smile faded into something softer. Something vulnerable. The rain continued tapping against the windows. The city lights shimmered below us. And for the first time that night, I felt like we were the only two people in the world. Weston took a slow breath. Then he turned off the music. My pulse immediately quickened. The silence felt louder than the storm outside. He met my eyes. "Michael." His voice was barely above a whisper. "There's something I've wanted to tell you for a long time." My heart pounded so loudly that I was sure Weston could hear it. The rain continued falling outside as he stared at me. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he smiled nervously and looked away. "You know," he said, rubbing the back of his neck, "I had this whole speech planned." I laughed. "The golden boy gets nervous too?" "Only around certain people." My stomach flipped. Weston looked back at me. "I've wanted to be your friend for a long time." The words weren't exactly what I expected, but somehow they still made me smile. "That's what you wanted to tell me?" "Partly," he laughed. "I just didn't want to scare you away." We stayed at the Overlook for another hour talking about everything and nothing. By the time he dropped me off at my dorm, the storm had started to calm down. As I got out of the car, Weston rolled down his window. "Hey!" I turned around. "You want to grab coffee tomorrow?" I tried not to look too excited. "Sure." His grin returned. "Good. I'll text you." As I walked into the dorm, I couldn't stop smiling. For the first time since arriving at college, I felt like something special might be beginning. The next few weeks passed faster than I could believe. Coffee became a regular thing. Coffee became lunch. Lunch became study sessions. Study sessions became long evening walks around campus. Somehow Weston was suddenly everywhere in my life. At first I thought it was coincidence. Then I realized he was making time for me. One afternoon we were sitting outside the student center when a group of students stopped to talk to him. Everyone seemed to know Weston. Everyone wanted his attention. But even while talking to them, his eyes kept drifting back toward me. When they finally left, I shook my head. "Does everyone on campus know you?" He groaned. "Unfortunately. You make it look easy." Weston laughed. "Trust me, it's not." His expression became more serious. "Most people think they know me, but they only know the version they see." I frowned. "What do you mean?" Weston looked out across campus. "The athlete, the popular guy, the guy who's always smiling. You don't like that?" "It's not that." He hesitated. "Sometimes it feels like nobody sees the real me." For a second, I caught a glimpse of something vulnerable behind his confident smile. Something lonely, something genuine. And for some reason, I wanted to know more. As the weeks passed, our friendship continued growing. Sometimes we'd drive around town listening to music. Sometimes we'd spend hours talking in coffee shops. Sometimes we'd simply sit together in comfortable silence. The more time I spent with him, the harder it became to ignore my feelings. I liked him. A lot. Maybe more than I should. The problem was that I had no idea whether Weston felt the same way. Sometimes he acted like he did. Other times he seemed completely unaware of the effect he had on me. The uncertainty drove me crazy. Then everything changed. One Friday afternoon, I was leaving the library when I spotted Weston across campus. First I smiled. Then I noticed he wasn't alone. Standing beside him was another guy. Tall, handsome, confident. The two of them were laughing together. A few seconds later, the guy threw an arm around Weston's shoulders. Weston didn't move away. My chest tightened. I watched them walk toward a nearby cafe together. Neither of them noticed me. For the rest of the day, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe they were just friends. But then the photos started appearing online. Pictures of them downtown. Pictures at restaurants. Pictures at campus events. Every image felt like a punch to the stomach. The comments only made things worse. "Cutest couple on campus. They look perfect together." I knew it. I knew social media wasn't always accurate. But jealousy doesn't care about logic. It only cares about fear. And I was terrified. Terrified that I had imagined everything. Terrified that Weston had never seen me the way I wanted him to. Over the next several days, I began avoiding him. I stopped answering messages right away. I made excuses when he invited me somewhere. I convinced myself it would hurt less if I pulled away first. But it didn't. It hurt more. Every day without Weston felt wrong. Every day felt emptier. Then one morning I opened my dorm room door and nearly froze. Weston was standing in the hallway. His hands were shoved into his jacket pockets. His expression looked frustrated. Relieved. and slightly hurt. The moment our eyes met, he stepped forward. "Okay," he said. "We need to talk." My pulse immediately jumped. Weston stared directly at me. "You're avoiding me." I looked away. "No, I'm not. Michael." His voice softened. "You're running away from me." He paused. "And I deserve to know why." For a moment, I couldn't look at him. Weston stood there in the hallway, waiting for an answer. I knew I couldn't keep avoiding the truth forever, so I took a deep breath. "You really want to know why?" "Yes." I laughed bitterly. "Because I saw you with him." Weston's eyebrows pulled together. "With who?" "The guy you've been spending all your time with." Confusion flashed across his face. Then realization hit him. "Oh." The single word somehow made me feel even worse. "Yeah?" "Oh. Michael. You don't owe me an explanation." His expression changed immediately. "What are you talking about?" I folded my arms. "Look, it's fine. You can spend time with whoever you want. That's not what this is about." "Then what is it about?" For several seconds, Weston simply stared at me. Then he shook his head. "I can't believe this." My stomach tightened. "What?" "That's my cousin." I blinked. "What? My cousin?" Weston laughed in disbelief. "He's visiting from California." The floor might as well have disappeared beneath me. All the jealousy, all the assumptions, all the sleepless nights, every single one had been based on a misunderstanding. Heat rushed into my face. "Oh." Now it was my turn to say it. Weston sighed. "You seriously thought I was dating him?" I looked away. "Maybe." His shoulders dropped. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then Weston said something I didn't expect. "You should have asked me." The disappointment in his voice hurt more than anger would have. "I know. You just disappeared."
I'm sorry.
Weston rubbed his forehead. "I thought I did something wrong." Guilt crashed into me, because the truth was he hadn't. I was the one who had run away, the one who had assumed the worst, the one who had been terrified of getting hurt. "I'm sorry," I repeated. Weston nodded slowly, but something still felt different. The easy comfort we'd always shared wasn't there. Not anymore. At least not yet. The conversation ended awkwardly. And although we started talking again, things weren't the same, not immediately. A distance had formed between us, one that neither of us seemed able to cross. The next several days were strange. We still texted. We still saw each other. But the energy felt different, like we were both holding something back, like we were standing at the edge of a cliff, afraid to take the next step. Then, one evening, another storm rolled into town. Dark clouds covered the sky. Rain hammered against the windows of my dorm. Thunder echoed across campus. I sat at my desk trying to study when my phone buzzed. A message from Weston. My heart immediately sped up. "Weston, can we meet?" I stared at the screen. A second message appeared. "Weston, same place as before. The overlook. The place where everything had started." 20 minutes later, I pulled into the parking area. Rain poured from the sky. Weston's Mustang was already there. For a moment, I simply sat in my car, nervous, excited, terrified. Then I got out and hurried through the rain. Weston was waiting beside his car. His dark jacket was soaked. His hair was dripping wet. Yet somehow he still looked like the same guy who had stopped beside me during that first storm. The same guy who had changed everything. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. The rain filled the silence. Finally, Weston looked at me. "I'm tired of pretending." My pulse jumped. "What?" He took a slow breath. Then he stepped closer. "When you started avoiding me." His voice softened. It hurt more than it should have. I couldn't speak. Weston continued. "The truth is, the reason I kept looking for you wasn't friendship." My heart nearly stopped. "The reason I kept texting you wasn't friendship." Another step closer. "The reason I couldn't stop thinking about you wasn't friendship either." The rain seemed to disappear. The entire world faded away. There was only Weston. Only us. His eyes never left mine. "I like you, Michael." My breath caught. "I have for months." Every emotion I'd been carrying exploded inside me at once. Hope, relief, disbelief, happiness, fear, all of it. For a moment I couldn't find the words. Then I laughed nervously. You have no idea how long I've wanted to hear that. Weston's eyes widened. Slowly, a smile spread across his face. You mean? I nodded. I like you too. The smile that followed was the most genuine smile I'd ever seen from him. Not the smile everyone else got. Not the golden boy smile. The real one. The one meant only for me. For a while we simply stood there in the rain, laughing like two idiots. Neither of us able to believe this was finally happening. Then Weston's expression grew serious again. There was something else I wanted to tell you. My stomach tightened. What is it? His smile faded, and suddenly he looked nervous. Really nervous. I wasn't sure I should say anything tonight. Weston, he exhaled slowly. A few months ago, I almost transferred. The words hit me like a punch. What? He nodded. I got an opportunity at another college. I stared at him. You were going to leave? I almost did. The rain continued falling around us. Weston looked directly into my eyes. But I stayed. Why? For several seconds he didn't answer. Then his expression softened. Because of you. I felt my heart completely melt. Weston gave a small laugh. You probably don't realize this, but you changed my life. Emotion tightened my throat. Before I could respond, he looked away toward the city lights below. There might be another opportunity after this semester. My smile faded. What kind of opportunity? Professional training. The words immediately filled me with dread, because I knew what they meant. Leaving, distance, uncertainty. The future I just started imagining suddenly felt fragile. Weston turned back toward me, and for the first time that night, fear appeared in his eyes too, because he was thinking the exact same thing. What if we had finally found each other, only to be pulled apart? For the next few days, I couldn't stop thinking about what Weston had told me. The possibility of losing him scared me more than I wanted to admit. Just a week earlier, I had been wondering whether he liked me at all. Now I was wondering how much time we had left together. The uncertainty followed me everywhere. In class, in the dining hall, even when I tried to sleep. But instead of pulling away, Weston did the opposite. He stayed close, closer than ever. Every free moment we had, we spent together. We explored parts of town neither of us had visited before. We grabbed late-night coffee. We studied together. We watched movies in the student lounge long after everyone else had gone to bed. And somewhere along the way, the fear slowly transformed into something else. Gratitude, because no matter what happened next, I was getting to experience something real, something worth fighting for. One afternoon we sat beside the river that ran through town. The sky was clear. The water reflected the sunlight like glass. Weston skipped a stone across the surface. I spent so much of my life chasing the next achievement, he admitted. I looked at him. The next game, the next award, the next opportunity. He smiled weakly. I thought that was what success was supposed to feel like. And now, Weston turned toward me. Now I think success is finding someone who makes all of that matter. My heart nearly melted. Sometimes he said things that completely caught me off guard. The confident athlete everyone admired seemed to disappear whenever we were alone. The real Weston was thoughtful, kind, a little insecure, and somehow that made me care about him even more. As the semester moved closer to its end, the question of his future became impossible to ignore. The professional training program wanted an answer. Soon. One evening Weston asked me to meet him at our favorite overlook. The same place where everything had begun. The same place where he had first opened up to me. The same place where we had confessed our feelings. As I drove there, dark clouds gathered overhead. A familiar storm was rolling in. By the time I arrived, rain had already started falling. Weston's Mustang was parked exactly where it had been that very first night. I couldn't help smiling. Some things never changed. I climbed into the passenger seat. Weston was already there, watching the rain slide down the windshield. For a few moments neither of us spoke. Then he finally broke the silence. I made my decision. My stomach tightened immediately. The decision. The one I'd been dreading. Weston looked nervous, which somehow made me even more nervous. What happened? I asked quietly. He took a deep breath. They offered me the opportunity. I nodded slowly, and a smile appeared on his face. The program works with my college schedule. I blinked. What? His smile widened. I don't have to transfer. For a second I thought I'd heard him wrong. You don't. He shook his head.
No.
Relief exploded through my chest. So you're staying?
I'm staying.
I laughed. Actually laughed. The kind of laugh that comes from pure happiness. Weston started laughing too. Neither of us could stop smiling. The fear that had been hanging over us for weeks suddenly disappeared. Gone. Just like that. Weston looked out at the city lights below. Then back at me. You know something? What? His expression softened. The best thing that ever happened to me wasn't winning championships. I smiled. It wasn't.
No.
He shook his head. It was stopping my car during a storm and asking a soaked freshman if he needed a ride. I felt my cheeks warm. The rain tapped gently against the roof of the car. The same sound that had brought us together months earlier. I almost said no. I admitted. Weston laughed. Good thing you didn't. For a moment we simply looked at each other, neither of us needing to say anything else. Because we both knew. Every misunderstanding, every moment of jealousy, every fear, every storm, had somehow led us here. Together. Weston reached over and took my hand. And for the first time since all of this had started, I felt completely certain about something. The future wasn't scary anymore. Because whatever came next, we would face it together. As we drove away from the overlook that night, rain falling around us and music playing softly through the speakers, I realized something. The storm that soaked me that evening months ago hadn't ruined my day. It had changed my life. Because it brought me to Weston Hayes. And somehow, against all odds, the campus golden boy had become mine. The road ahead was still unknown. But for the first time, I wasn't afraid of where it might lead. As long as Weston was beside me, I knew I was exactly where I belonged. And this was only the beginning of our story. Before you go, I want to ask you something. If you were Michael, would you have gotten into Weston's car that rainy night? Or would you have walked away and missed the love of your life? Let me know your answer in the comments below. Red heart. And if this story made you smile, feel butterflies, or believe in love a little more, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new gay romance story. Thank you for spending this journey with Michael and Weston. Until next time,